You are listening and watching Sweats, Heels, and Mental Health Podcast,
where we have girl talk with a mental health twist.
Please click subscribe and listen and watch for our next episode.
Hello. Welcome back for another episode of Sweats, Heels, and Mental Health Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Marshon and
And I'm your other co-host, Maria Bush.
And as you always know, of course, we're Twinning with Winning Women. We are coming back. This is our last episode of the cuffing season.
Yes.
And we couldn't do it no justice other than to bring a part 2 for understanding the orgasm. But a little different today. We want to understand the male orgasm and any arousal dysfunction.
Yeah.
This is really important because a lot of men, they don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
They may feel embarrassed, they may feel inadequate, but it's something that needs to be brought up because we need to find solutions to address, and also what ways can men orgasm, or really not orgasm, but for arousal, because believe it or not, there's a lot of men that don't get aroused. And it could be not just there's different reasons, but stress can be one, medication, so different things that go on, but I just definitely think it's something that needs to be talked about.
Absolutely. And we could not do this without our 2 favorite guests. They are no longer guests. They are regulars here. And we just appreciate them coming back. We have De-Andrea Blaylock-Johnson. She is your favorite sex therapist. She is a licensed clinical social worker out of the state of Missouri. And we also have Mr. Donte Alexander Doss, the big man on social media, and also, yes, it's true. And I'm so excited about his book that he's currently writing. Look for it. But thank you both, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Glad to be back.
Absolutely. Any updates of where you all are at? Anything you want to share with our listeners before we jump in?
You know, I'm staying busy in my practice, which is good, but also very indicative of how the pandemic is affecting people in relationship. So, yeah, it's good, but it's like, we got to get some healing. I think folks are spending a lot of time with each other and they're noticing things that they can't ignore. So I'm glad that they're reaching out for that assistance.
That's good.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just staying busy. I don't know if I mentioned last time, but I'm a single dad, been a single dad for 12 years now. So I'm busy, and my daughter is 15. She's in 10th. She wants to go to UCLA and do marine biology. So we're doing virtual college fairs and, getting her ready for that. She's getting ready to get a permit to learn how to drive. So I got to teach her how to do that. And then my son, he's an artist, been drawing for a while, since he was 3, 4. And so I just actually, right before this, I just finished his portfolio. He's got to do an audition for the school that he's going to do for high school. It's an art school here, really eclectic, unique, but a great experience for students. So I'm trying to do that and the book, and been writing intensively on that as well. So the book should be out, or should be done by next month. I'm trying to get it done by my birthday at the end of March. So that's really exciting. It's coming together, and I've got 5 chapters I'm doing. 5 is my favorite number, so I'm doing 5. Just finished the first chapter fully the other day with 2 intensive workshops. So it's, I'm like De-Andrea, just staying busy.
Yeah.
But, good busy, good productive busy, so can't complain.
Awesome. Wonderful. Beautiful. I thank you both for taking the time, yes, to give us your expertise and knowledge on this subject.
Excellent stuff. Well, let's just dive right in. Good questions. I'm sure a lot of men, women want to know too, but what is the difference between ejaculation, non-ejaculation orgasm, and orgasm for men? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, so there are different things that are happening. Although it feels like it's happening at the same time, they're two different things. So the orgasm is the may feel like a release of pressure, or also paired with the muscle spasms within the penis. But ejaculation is the expulsion of seminal fluid, right, of semen. And so, like I said, although it feels like they're the same thing, they can actually happen separate of each other. So there are opportunities for people with penises to learn how to have or experience orgasms without ejaculation. And then even with that, there are different types of orgasms that you can experience based on the type of stimulation.
Interesting.
I think that's straightforward. Straightforward. And of course, De-Andrea is professional in this arena. So it's straightforward. Like you said, there's different ones, but depending, like you said, on stimulation. But I think that's a misconception, even with men. As you say, I guess you could say, who have penises, born with that, or born biologically with penile or genital, whatever. I'm rambling, but the fact is, what I'm trying to say is really that there's a misconception, and a lot of men don't know that. And I've had conversations with guys, and they had no idea. And of course, with women, I've had conversations too, and they had no idea. But yeah, it's a huge misconception that I think everybody just thinks when it comes to a male, it's simple as that. It's orgasm. They think it's just the ejaculation, and that's it. So I think that's the thing where people that I know kind of are intrigued when I talk about it, or when we're having conversations, because they don't know. I'm like, yeah, there's different ones, and there's different types of things you can do. So it's just a huge misconception when it comes to that, I believe.
Yeah. And I think a lot of women, we're visual people, but a lot of women, we're like, he didn't come. Did he orgasm? Did he enjoy it? I didn't see the cream. I didn't. We want that. We like to see it, taste it.
The tangible liquidities. No pun intended, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're like, did he enjoy it? Did he come? You didn't come, but he's like, oh, I orgasm.
And that's one thing too, like understanding that not every sexual experience has to end in orgasm, whether it's an orgasm that has ejaculation or no orgasm at all. But orgasm does not have to be the end goal. What I see a lot of times is people feel pressured to have an orgasm, which is when you run into people faking orgasms, because sometimes men will fake orgasms, or people with penises will fake orgasms as well, for various reasons, because they're ready for the experience to end, or they're tired, they got a leg cramp, a trolley horse, whatever. But listen, I don't know if y'all have experienced that calf pain, but anyway, but people will fake orgasms because they have that expectation to so-called finish. But I think it's important to move our focus from orgasm specifically and look at experiencing pleasure. And if we're, really looking at making sure we have a good time and our partner at the time has a good time, everything gonna be good. But yeah, definitely a lot of times people look and it's like, oh, you didn't come. Did you have a good time? Did you enjoy this? We're just conditioned by a lot of different things that sex is supposed to look a certain way. And when it doesn't, we're confused.
And then I think about those men or women that their birth control method is the pull-out method. And so if they're thinking that their man is ejaculating and they're not, it's like they freaking out because did you come or not? Did you, and so it's important for the man to know his body so that he can share that and communicate that with his partner.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we talked about that last time, the experience as opposed to the end result or the end goal. And you really brought that home, because I think that's the thing, like I said, we're conditioned, or people, should I say, in general, are conditioned to just want that end result. And like you said, they rush it and they don't enjoy it. And a lot of times where, and I may have mentioned this before, but I get aroused or get pleasure off of women being aroused or being pleasured and being satisfied. And so a lot of times I don't even get to that. I'm as long as they're satisfied, I'm good. And they're like, well, you didn't. And I'm like, I didn't have to. I'm good as long as you are. It's cool. So it's so amazing to see their face because they're like, really? Like, they're so used to men being ready for, ejaculation that they're done or whatever. And I'm like, no, as long as you do what you need to do. So that's the thing. It's like you said, the conditioning. I think a lot of people need to get out of the conditioning and say, okay, well, what are things that you actually like, or trying something different or whatever. So it's just so amazing. Like you said, people are so, I guess, robotic. Yeah. Like machines. It's just, this is what's supposed to happen and that's it. But I think that's what that monotony is what, that monotony is what thwarts the enjoyment, so to speak. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know one thing for me and Marshon talk about is how can, what helps to prolong the arousal and or intensity of the orgasm for men. Mm-hmm. This is something we talk about a lot between me and my sister. So,
yeah. So one thing I'm going to say is to, there are a couple of things, but one, slow down. I think a lot of times people immediately go to genitals, but we have a whole body to explore. And, if you only go there, then and you only stimulate the genitals, specifically stimulate the penis, then you may have the end result of an orgasm or ejaculation, and then a nap is needed. So it's important to explore the entire body. Like, that's definitely one way to extend the experience, not to be so focused only on genitals, but also to slow down in the act. A lot of times people are rushing for various reasons. Sometimes quickies are necessary, and I'm not mad at them. But other times when you have the luxury of not rushing, don't. Just slow down and give yourself an opportunity to really experience the pleasure that you're having in your body.
The experience, again, that journey, that experience. And we have so many sensations on our body. And I think women, we're so focused on sometimes our own and being pleased, we forget that man has sensations all over too. It ain't just the earlobe. It's the neck, it's the side, I don't know what's that's called down there in the hip area, them thighs.
Well, it's supposed to be B, but some people have W's and X's, whatever you want to call it.
So we like that. We like it.
That's awesome.
Toes, feet, hands. I mean, it's not his ass, butt, all that.
I think a lot of people are, it's so crazy that, and I'm kind of flipping, but with women, because I've never been with a man, so I can only speak for women, but it's amazing. Like, I do certain things and they've never had them done. And it's not even just women who are single, it's women who've been married. Oh, I've never had this, or I'm not gonna lie, I eat ass. Oh, I've never had my ass. I'm like, how, it's just certain things. Of course, I know people have their proclivities and then people have their restrictions, but even, I suck toes. I've never had my toes sucked. Nice toes now. I don't suck ugly toes. So they have to be nice. I'm not Marcus Graham on Boomerang. But, I'm like, really? And they're like, no, man. And these are women, including women who have been married 20 years before. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, never had a man touch these parts and everything. Because to me, personally, I'm like, well, they're shocked anyway, because I'm like, I just believe you're with a woman. A woman's body is her gift, and it's a special gift, it's a unique gift. And I'm like, she should be touched from head to toe. So I'm like, how do you, especially if you're married and you're with this person, and I think we talked about that last time, you're married, you're faithful to that person. It's just life's too short to have bad sex and be in a marriage. So for me, it just shocks me. It's like, you've got all these parts, you've got all this stuff, and like De-Andrea said, a person goes straight to the genitals. And guys, I know, because I can't say that I was that way, probably when I was younger, but I know a lot of men, they just want theirs. They just want a nut, they want to go. But I think that's where the thing comes in, the experience, and women are just completely shocked when they're like, wow, you're taking your time, you've touched this, you've touched me in places or done things that I've never experienced. And I'm like, yeah, because it's an experience. Yeah. So it's just crazy to me. It blows my mind even when I talk to women, they're like, yeah, I was married with my husband, we only did 2 positions, or we only did we never did this, that, and other. And I'm just like, that is insane. So it's blows my mind.
Yeah, I think about how one of my coworkers who was married twice and had 3 children and could not pinpoint if she had experienced an orgasm. And so I know, ain't it sad? So we took a little field trip to a local toy store, and I gave her recommendations. I gave her a book about solo sex and was like, okay, have fun, and some lube. Let me not leave that out, because lube is important. Lube is our friend. And I said, it was a Friday. So I said, I'll see you Monday. And Monday, she was so grateful. She said, I'm so glad. I didn't know my body could do that, and so on and so forth. Like I said, 2 husbands and 3 kids, and she couldn't tell me if she had experienced an orgasm. So it's very, I don't know. You might be surprised at the amounts of bad sex that people are having.
I can believe it. I can believe just from the stories I've heard, which, because I think about a couple of women in particular, and I knew that they were married, and I knew their husbands personally. And they're like, I only did this. I didn't know and I'm just like, wow. Like, I talked to this dude, I dapped him up, and we've talked, and I thought he was handling his business, and come to find out he never was. So even for me, and I know you've heard way more than I have in your profession, but even for the few I've heard, or I've personally talked to, it blows my mind. I'm just like, wow. So I don't know. I think if more people have better sex, the world would be better. But
I agree.
I about this last time where people are waiting till they get married, which is nothing wrong with that, but they come in not well experienced, and so they're trying to figure it out all together, and all you know is missionary, and that's it. But if you have to have an open mind, and if your parents are not teaching about it, where are you learning this from?
And that's one thing. A lot of times people are getting most of their sexuality education from porn. And I'm not anti-porn, but they may not understand that porn is entertainment. That position don't feel good in real life. It just looks good on camera.
they get paid for it.
You hear me? Like sisters didn't pay good money to make them sound. So I don't know how I'm gonna say good money, but this is a performance. It's a performance, and so it's just important that people go into those experiences with an open mind. Like just a little personal. My husband. Well, I'm widowed, but my husband was my first intercourse. However, we explored things. We were open to exploring things together and had an open mind and talked about things before we had sex. So we were able to we had a better experience than what a lot of other people had, only because 1, we knew that porn is entertainment, and 2, you have that open communication available.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Because people have come to me who are married too, and they're like, well, how do I do this, or and I have to tell them, you have to communicate. And I think that's the one thing. People are just, because we talked about this last time, religiosity or whatever, and they just, I'm ashamed. And I'm like, no, you have to be open, and like you said, with an open mind, and be willing to try anything. Now, people just have to communicate. Especially if they're not satisfied. I think a lot of people, I guess I'll say it like this. There's a lot of people that I know and I've talked to, or online or wherever, and they don't want to, I guess, mess up what they have with the person. Now, they're not being satisfied, but they don't want to say anything because, he'll be upset or she'll be. And I'm like, no, if you're not satisfied, what's the point? You're really wasting your time. You can find somebody else. I mean, that's the biggest thing, and be open. I agree with you. Just being open to it. There's just so many times, or not so many times, now I sound like a whore or whatever. But there have been...
No judgment. Your experience. There's no judgment in that.
Right.
Well, I joke about it. I joke about stuff all the time, but there have been times where, women, like I said, I've met them and they've never done this, that, or other. And I think I mentioned this last time, girls that I've dated, I'll order them toys online. If I don't go to a store, I'll order them stuff, have it sent to them. And I'm like, try this before I get there or whatever, especially because I usually date out of town. I don't know why, I just do. And then when they try it or when I come and I show them what to do or whatever, whether it's a butt plug or whatever, they're blown away. Oh, because at first they're like, no, I don't want that. And I'm like, just hold on, just hold. And I'm not a lube person, I'm a coconut oil person. So when I had a Twitter page, that was my thing. I used to have a picture and they were like, you need to do a commercial because I'm like, this stuff is it heightens everything on the body just amazingly. But anyway, I'm like, try this or whatever. And they're stuck with it. They're just like, I can't believe. And like I said, they end up, I didn't know I could do this or I would enjoy this. So it's just about having an open mind. Like that's the biggest thing. The shame. And I don't know. People are just missing out because they're ashamed. So got to talk about it. Got to be open to it. Do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think just even from our first episode, there have been people to watch it, but not really comment because of that shame that you're talking about. So they're low key listening to the podcast or watching that YouTube video, but they'd rather not share it or they feel it's inappropriate. But this is a part of of being a human. And you shouldn't be, if you're ashamed of that, you're shaming that side of you. So yeah, I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
I have used to have a YouTube show called Ask a Sex Therapist, and I have a Facebook page by the same name. And I do have someone who told me, I'm not going to like your page because I don't want other people to know that I like it, but I want you to know that I see everything that you post.
Man.
So I appreciated the support, but it's just that shame factor of I don't want people to know that I like this public page where she's giving good sexual information. I get it. I'm not condemning it, but yeah.
I say live your life. Live your life. Do what you want to do. Yeah. Hey, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, one thing I think, since we're talking about toys and arousal stimulus, what are other stimulants men can use to orgasm or, I guess get aroused?
Yeah. So there are a couple of different things that came to mind. One is actually for those who do participate in solo sex, if they usually use their dominant hand, I encourage people to use their non-dominant hand, only to get used to different type of stimulation. Also, they may notice that it prolongs their arousal. It prolongs the time before orgasm. Also, another suggestion would be to have a solo sex session using condoms, especially for people who say that they don't like sex with condoms, or, they can't get aroused or stay hard or whatever. And so in doing that, you're kind of retraining your brain to experience pleasure with that barrier method. And you'll find that, I actually can have good sex with a condom, but you just have to retrain your brain in that way.
That's good.
Well, I agree with those. One thing I was mention or suggest, now I've never personally taken, but I have male friends who are gay, and they love anal penetration. And I've talked with a couple of older men where that was something that their wives had to do because they couldn't get an erection for whatever reason, prostate reasons and other issues. So that's one thing. I can't speak personally, but I've heard that it works. Also, to append to what you were saying, there's a method called edging. And I've done it here and there, but I don't know. I like to go and get what I'm gonna get because I got to do something or I got to go wherever, whatever. But a lot of people I know, or not a lot of people, excuse me, people that I know or I've talked to people, they do edging. And edging is basically, De-Andrea probably can explain it better in a textbook term than I can, but I guess I'll do it the best way I can.
You got it.
It's basically, like you were saying, Marshon, it's building up to that end result without going over the edge. And that's why they call it edging, I guess. It's a lot of people, some people do it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Some people do it for hours. And that really kind of, I guess, goes into what's called orgasm denial. So it's basically getting there, letting the beat build without hitting that last beat. And so that helps a lot of times men to prolong their orgasms or to prolong their ejaculation. As well, other things, of course I mentioned anal, but on the other end, there are plugs, which I learned not long ago, I had no idea, but there are penile plugs. Now they look, they're metal, very thin metal rods that can go into they can be inserted into the penis. And those, I was reading up on it now. I don't know, and I've never known anybody that's done it. Probably talk to like a Marilyn Manson type or somebody who likes piercings and Jacob Ladders and all that stuff, Prince Albert type stuff, the piercings. But those rods, and actually I was in a store not long ago, and a sex store, and they had them. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's what it was I was reading about. So I did read the reviews and read some things, and it says that those help. And as well, I love bondage and BDSM and all that stuff. So I actually like to tie up my genitals sometimes or whatever, a lot of times really, because for me, and women are like, why do you do that? For me, it's a balance of pain and pleasure. It actually does things with the blood restriction and flow, and it's almost like you're going to explode for real, like your body's going to explode. So it's an interesting sensation. Actually, a couple of frat brothers like, why do you do that? So they started doing it with their wives. They're like, oh, okay. So those are three things I think. Just that goes into that doing different things. Like people are just used to, like you said, missionary and whatever, but there's just certain things you just gotta, I guess like one of you all had mentioned, reprogramming your mind or reprogramming, De-Andrea said, reprogramming your body. So that's kind of introducing some things that people aren't used to. The edging thing is really interesting. Like I've seen people talk about it online, they've edged for 30 hours. And I'm like, no, I mean, hey, good for you, but I'm like, how many can I get in that moment of time? So it's crazy, but definitely, those are some things I think that would work for guys who are looking for something to help prolong or help with arousal. And actually, you know what? And I forgot, like toys too. I'll speak personally. I don't think toys work for Black men. Every time a woman has bought me a toy, it's broken, like immediately. So I'm just like, this stuff ain't for us. But toys, I don't know anything about it per se. When I used to have a Twitter page, he used to talk about everything. And so there was a guy that used to joke about it, but he's talked about cock sheets. And they're these, I don't know, usually I guess they're plastic. They probably come in different textures or materials, but the ones I looked up, they were like plastic looking, I think, or something, and they go around the penis as the penis is hard. Now, a lot of men use them, at least for what he was joking about himself and kind of disparaging himself. He was like, I got to use a cock sheet because I have nothing and women need, so whatever you say, just joking, bullshitting about it. But it helps with penetration for the woman, it says, and then also it just helps with, I guess, length and things like that. So stuff like that, toys, and there's what is that thing called? A sleeve. They call them sleeves, but they look like a vagina on the bottom. They look like a flashlight, like a security guard's flashlight. So no, I can't remember. There's a name that specifically called flashlight. That's it. And I saw those things. I was like, I'm not paying $70, $120 because I thought it was interesting. But I was like, I ain't, And as I used to joke, Angela and Pamela work better. If I don't need to, they're free. But anyway, so those are some things. Just toys too, like toys at the store. People always think about toys for women, but there's stuff out there for men too. So the cock sheets, the sleeves, fleshlights, things of that nature too.
So I've heard this thing where if men urinate, go to the bathroom prior to ejaculating, or they feel themselves, that will prolong it as well.
That I'm not quite sure. The way I think about it though is that it's like a train track, almost like you're switching tracks. Whereas when you are aroused, you're not necessarily immediately able to urinate. Whereas if you're not aroused, it'll be easier to do that. So it's kind of like your body is switching what fluid is available to go through the urethra at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's funny because, well, first of all, it takes me back to when I was about 16. I was dating this girl, and I don't know, we were talking, you know how kids, we were talking about sex, and she thought it was so amazing because I said, yeah, if we're hard where we can't pee. She was like, well, if we're aroused, we can pee. I was like, we can't. She was so amazed by that. But anyway, that was what, 16, 18 years ago, 20 years ago. Nevertheless, that's funny that you said it because I've always thought that, or always believed that, but there are like fetishes where men can urinate inside women as they're aroused. So I don't know anything about that, but I thought it was interesting because I'm like, how does he do that? But apparently, I don't know if they work up to it or they know how to get themselves to do that. But it was interesting to me because I'm like you. There's a track and you're on either one. You can't be on both. So it's so interesting. But it was something else I was going to say. You made me think, but I forgot. But anyway.
But that's kind of what happens. You kind of just have to, in those situations, like you're still able to, but it just takes a while for your body to get back on that track.
Gotcha.
You know, that's what I was going to say. As far as urination, I don't know. Like I said, but with the ejaculation, now I don't know this, but there are guys who I've seen, like on Twitter. I reference Twitter. I don't have a page anymore, but like I said, we used to talk about everything, and I can't really talk about that on Facebook. I do, but some stuff I kind of allude to. But I got church members, my mother on there. I don't want to hear anybody's mouth, so they clearly think I'm still a child. But but we used to talk about that on there, and guys would be like, they would go before a date or before they had a sexual experience with a woman, they would ejaculate at least once, masturbate, jack off, whatever, at least once before they did the sexual encounter because it would prolong their premature or any type of ejaculation. So I guess that works. I don't know. But the tying up stuff does do that because a lot of guys, and I forgot to mention that, they're called cock rings, and those, you know, you can put them on anywhere on the genitals, even around the scrotum. And so a lot of men use those as well to strengthen the arousal or the erection, and also to prolong the ejaculation.
From you all's experience, what can keep or inhibit a man from orgasm or ejaculating? What are those things that can keep them from doing that? And then how do we, as their partner, communicate, or how can they communicate that to us?
There are a lot of different things, and I'm thinking about specifically psychological factors, like if you are anxious, for example, someone who may be dealing with erectile dysfunction or delayed ejaculation or rapid ejaculation, they may live in their head so much with the anxiety that something's going to go wrong or they're not going to be able to enjoy the experience. And so working with the therapist to kind of tackle those anxieties can be really helpful. What a partner can do in those situations is really working to exercise patience, not to equate someone's abilities of their bodies with their worth as a person.
Yeah.
But also just that patience, and then also a willingness to participate. For example, I may provide some type of homework or activity for someone to do, whether it's by themselves or with a partner, and a willingness to participate in that.
Okay.
I think it takes me to a Jefferson's episode where George had that issue, and he went to a sex therapist, and he, you know, that's what, the 60s, 70s. So she told him some stuff that De-Andrea probably would say, and he was just like, I'm not doing that, you know. So he went back home, and Wheezy somehow found out, and she basically she pretended like they had sex. He was asleep. As a matter of fact, he went out, got drunk. He was depressed about it, whatever. Got drunk, came home, fell in the bed. So she undressed him and got in the bed, and he woke up, and she said, "Oh, George, you were wonderful." And immediately they got to it. So apparently that worked, I guess. But I think that basically goes to saying, you know, what De-Andrea was saying, the partner, you know, doing what it takes to make sure that the person feels comfortable, that they don't feel diminished or whatever in their capacity just because of their current status. I read, and De-Andrea I know knows this, performance anxiety. And I've known some guys that have had that. But I did suffer from anxiety as well about a couple of years ago, where I had no drive at all. I had no interest in having sex at all, really because I was dealing with anxiety, still am, over death, and have known so many people who had died and still have in the past couple of years. And after nursing a couple of my homeboys to death, really, in their illnesses, I just had such anxiety over that and just things that were going on. And I talked to my therapist about the fact that I'm thinking about mortality, and I'm approaching 40 now. So he said, you're having an existential crisis and you're thinking about things. So that just really, to me, is what in my mind diminished my sex drive completely, just because of that. So anxiety definitely is an issue with men, but especially the performance anxiety. I think, like De-Andrea said, just guys are just thinking about outcomes and what can I do. So I think the partner aspect, the partner is the one who helps to make sure that they're not disparaged, or feeling inadequate as far as sex, and trying to help them to restore them. And then I think also, I don't know personally, I don't think, but I think like I said, there's various reasons, and I think a lot of people, because I've talked with women, and they've messed with guys who are in their 20s, and the guy had the problem, and it seems like, at least De-Andrea would know better than me, but it seems like 20-year-olds, people don't think that 20-year-olds would have that issue with ED or whatever. But I think a lot of things have to do with diet, drugs. A lot of people are these drugs, scissor and all this other crap, and as well alcohol. So it seems like those things are sometimes contributing factors when it comes to the medical portion of the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And then understanding the ways in which various medications can impact sexual functioning. Unfortunately, a lot of our physicians do not talk with us about these sexual side effects. We just kind of have to either figure out by experience or by looking on the internet. And it would be so helpful, I think, for physicians, because it's important to take these medications that help you manage, whether it's high blood pressure or diabetes, but it's also important to understand the other effects that it's going to have on your body, so you can be well prepared to handle it. Yeah.
And I think communicating too, we like the medications, our men are older or even younger. People in their 20s losing their hair, men and women, and that medication can halt the sexual arousal or the testosterone or the libido, whatever. And I just think that communicating that with your partner, not being afraid to open up to the person, like, hey, this is what's going on, or we research it together. We find out, oh, this may be why. So we can just find ways around it. We definitely don't want our men feeling inadequate. We don't want to make them feel bad. You're not a man. You can't do this. You ain't horny. You don't want this. Something wrong with me. And it's just, like you said, open and communication, researching and learning. Because it's a lot of factors with that. But yeah, sex is a big thing of our lives. I mean, it's a part of us. So I just think being open and communicating about what could hinder that or problems that you have with that, that's big.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. And so you have some of my clients that have to pick and choose, like, do I want to have a sexual life with my partner, or do I take care of my mental health? I'm always advocating for your mental health, but it's about communicating with your partner. What are some alternatives that we can do? Like you both, Donte and De-Andrea, said, that what can we do outside of the bedroom that can still create that intimacy in that relationship?
I think I'll go a step further. A friend of mine, we used to work together, an older woman. Her husband had prostate cancer years ago, had his prostate removed, so he can't have an erection anymore. And just the way you heard her talk, she's sweet as she can be. So she said, honey, it don't matter that he can't have no erection. I didn't marry him to have sex, but we do that. We still get in the bedroom. We still have fun, and we have a great time, and I'm satisfied and whatever. So I think that to me was a whole nother side of it. It's like, wow, the fact that, of course he couldn't help what was going on. Having prostate cancer, it's a serious thing anyway. And I think that's that battle, like you said, with battle with your clients. Well, that's another battle,
Yeah.
Do I want to, well, I'm sure most men would go ahead and have their prostate removed. So it's like, okay, well, once I do this, there goes my sex life. And my wife is not satisfied or there's potential there. So the fact that, as a partner, she said, I don't even care about that. She said, we're going to do what we need to do. Like you said, Marshon, to work around that. And she said they do it. At the time, I mean, that was 8, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And she was 50 then. So she's 60 something now. And she still seems like she's happy. So apparently the workarounds work.
And that's the thing, like understanding that specifically with any type of erectile dysfunction or ejaculation dysfunction that is caused by prostate cancer, understanding that you can still have quality, enjoyable sex even if you don't have ejaculation, and really just retraining your brain to understand that, because more times than not, because of the types of procedures that are done for folks with prostate cancer, they may lose ejaculation, but not equating good sex with that, not equating good sex with erections even. Just understanding that there are other ways that you can explore your sexuality with yourself and with your partner. It's imperative.
Absolutely.
The journey and the experience. So
There you go.
I've heard some of my clients that say, if they can't experience an erection, they start utilizing their fingers, to mimic a penis. Or like you said, there's many toys. And so there's ways. It's just being open-minded, like you said, Donte.
Oh, yeah.
we're talking about toys again. And not just toys, but what are like penis, for people who don't know, what are penis pumps and penis implants? That's like...
Well, since we were just talking about prostate cancer, and these can be used though for people who don't have that or aren't survivors of prostate cancer, but they can definitely be useful for those who are survivors of it. But penis pumps basically pump blood into the penis, and then you would use a cock ring to keep the blood there and the blood goes into it's called the kind of the spongy tissue within the penis to cause an erection. And so like I said, the cock ring would keep the blood there, so you would have an erection so that you can use it for penetration of some sort. But those are penis pumps. And then you mentioned penis implants, and those are kind of rod-like instruments that are surgically inserted into the penis to assist with erections. They can have different types of mechanisms that will keep the erection there, or to kind of remove the erection, that will be kind of like a button that you would press, but that would be implanted into the person as well, to start the erection and to end the erection. So yeah.
Interesting.
Hey, it sums it up. I know a lot of guys, and I don't know, but I think a lot of men, I guess, or at least from what I've seen a lot, and then you see those ads on stuff sometimes, or Men's Health magazines, a lot of men seem to use penis pumps too for I guess, growth or enhancement. And I don't know how much that works, because there's also, I guess, pills that do that, but they seem to do that too. I've seen people, and matter of fact, to be honest, I've seen women talk about it too. There's a vaginal pump that women use. And so I think that makes the labia and all this stuff or whatever protrude some kind of way. It's almost like collagen or something for the lips, or whatever women in California usually do, the Botox, all that crap. So it makes it, but for men, it seems like men use them for that too, to enhance, I guess, the aesthetic, and to make it look larger, or make their penis look larger. So whether it works or not, I don't know, but I've seen it here and there on articles and stuff. So
Well, we like to see we just have, like you said, retraining the mind. We think, oh, I got this big fat cock. And I get aroused. I like big penises, but I mean, all men don't got that. And that's okay, because it's still great. The performance, the journey's still awesome.
yeah.
Don't knock
What was that movie that said, I don't remember what movie that was. They said it doesn't matter about the boulders, the motion in the ocean. So
That's it. That's what it is.
Hey.
You know, one thing I wanted to just ask both of you, how can us partners, you know, meet our male partners' sexual needs overall? How can we communicate that too?
The biggest thing, you just said it, communication. Because, and that's probably one question that I get the most. How can I please my partner? Ask them. I don't know what they want. But for real, you have to be really open and honest about what it is that you like, and then be willing to accept what it is, you know, that your partner may say that they like. That doesn't mean you have to necessarily like it, because what may be their yum might be your yuck, and that's okay. But just making sure that you have that communication to explore and explain what it is that you like. But really just ask them what they want. That's it.
I agree. And, you know, it's amazing to me because men, you know, we grow up, especially chasing girls, having sex. We think it's a pride or prize thing to have it early. And there's just so many men that don't know good sex. They know how to, excuse my language, they know how to fuck and rush or jackrabbit, as I call it, like a teenager, and they're done. They don't know, as you know, Marshon said, the experience. And so it's just kind of amazing when I talk to guys, even guys I know who are married, aren't, have had, you know, got a black book thicker than mine, is this long, but they don't really know sex. They just know penetration, and that's it. And so I think that's the thing. The communication is just vital. Like De-Andrea said, it's really vital, because a lot of women even will have the perception that, oh, he's a man, he's not a virgin, he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't. You know, a lot of times. So I think that's the thing, is just communicate. I mean, that's just what it is, insane, because there are things that even as, you know, a man may not think he likes or may not have thought about that he does. I mean, everybody's bodies are different. Everybody likes something different. And then people, you know, have they're restricted on things, but once they, you know, experience them, they end up enjoying them. So I think that's the thing, is like we said earlier, you know, having that open mind, because that's the misconception, I think, more than anything, is that, well, he's a man, he knows what he's doing. And from the conversations I've had with women who are grown, who have told me experiences, you know, just jokingly or whatever, in jest or not, you know, it's like men who are 30, 40, 50 years old, they have no idea what the hell they're doing, especially when it comes to a woman's body. You know, nothing, don't know. I mean, it's amazing, but I'm like, how does a woman not know how to find a clitoris? I mean, a man not know how to, it's right there. And women are like, oh, he was everywhere but there.
Yeah.
He basically wasted his time and wasted yours, you know. So I think that's the thing, like I said, just the misconception that men know, and they really don't. A lot of men don't know either, no more than women do.
And one thing I wanted to throw this in there, if you're asking, I love how you both said, be ready for their answer, because there's some men and some women that want that third party experience. And so what do you do? Where's that compromise? Is that a deal breaker? I know that's a whole nother subject, but
I just know from experience. Go ahead, yeah.
I'll just say that having a threesome will not fix your relationship. Because a lot of times people think, oh, if we, you know, just add a third or have a different experience, maybe that's not going to fix your relationship. It may actually further complicate things. Now, I think that it is important to understand that ethical non-monogamy is something that works for a whole lot of people. And it's something that you can definitely, you know, explore with your partner and have your own parameters around that. However, like I said, having a threesome won't fix your relationship. And some things are good as fantasy. Not everything has to be a real life experience. Some things may, and depending on your partner, it may just live as fantasy, and you need to understand, okay, my partner isn't really down for this, but I really want to be with my partner. Is this a deal breaker? You know, and then have a really open and honest conversation with your partner and also with yourselves about how important it is to have that experience.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can say from experience. You know, being a guy in college who had plenty of orgies, threesomes, trains, gangbangs, whatever you want to call it. I'm in a fraternity, so we just did wild things. You know, and then after, I mean, that's one thing. You know, when you're young and you're not tied to anybody, whatever. But I'd say even further as an adult, who I will say who was married at the time, and I don't want to really divulge per se, because I don't want to implicate her, but when I was married, we participated in an orgy with a couple we knew. And it wasn't even planned, it was very spontaneous. But it complicated things. I just remember, I'll just say this, because I always tell the story because it's just hilarious. But I had, well, let me back up. Like I said, it was spontaneous. It was a couple we hung out with, and we went to church together and everything. So that makes it even more awkward. But he and I went to a strip club and one night, and the wives went to some play or something. Went back to a restaurant, we had some drinks, and they were like, oh, we could do what them strippers do. We're like, no, you can't do what they do. So we went to their house, and just stuff happened, per se. And when my ex-wife and I got in the car, we were like, we're never doing that again. Well, okay, yeah, I don't do that again. And long story short, I got left out, but they were all still whatever. And I didn't find out until we all went to on a cruise together. And as I'm driving down, they're trying to figure out how to tell me that they were all having their own dynamics, individually, separate, whatever. And I tried to fight the guy on the ship and was ready to throw him overboard. Mm-hmm. So to me, and that was 2006. That's how long ago that was. I used to joke on Twitter all the time. And I said, people would say orgies. I said, oh, that's overrated. I ain't had one since 2006, you know. But it's the truth. I mean, that's the thing. It's a complication. And I'm so glad as a professional De-Andrea saying that, because I just believe experientially that it was. But you saying that, I'm like, okay, that solidifies what I've always told people, because they've asked me, oh, well, what do you think if he wants somebody in? And I'm like, if you want complication or something happens, yeah. But otherwise, no, I'm like, it won't fix it. I'm the same way as you. It complicates it. So God forbid, but if I ever end up in a relationship again, that's what, first of all, I'm older. I was young then. I'm too old. I don't have the energy. Hey, let's do a few and then we good. But if I were like, no. I think that's one thing too. That leads to complication. It seems more so than not on well, I don't want to say the woman's part, but really both, because usually guys are the ones who ask. And I do laugh because women will say, well, me and want a threesome, but he ain't even doing whatever with a twosome. Now he want extra. I think a girl posted that yesterday. She said, men want, God, I wish I remember how she quoted it. She said, men want so much when they doing so little, or something she said. It was so hilarious. But I think that's the thing. I've seen so many of those scenarios play out where the woman gets mad or jealous or something, and it just tears the relationship apart. So I don't know. I mean, you know, everybody can do their thing, and some people like threesomes, but for me, I'm like, if you older and that's just so much. It's so much energy. I'm tired of thinking about it. Like, no. So it does complicate things to me. I think mostly or most probably.
Wow.
There's a movie. It's called Love by the 10th Date, and Megan Good is in it. Carrie Hilson and her husband. They have an open marriage, but she's the one that's more like, oh, she's more into it than he is. She don't want to be, I guess, you know, dampered or down, but he loves her. He wants to be with her, and she's enough for him, but he feels like he's not enough for her. And then they have that agreement that we have to know that we talk about it. We don't do it separate, you know, whatever. But then when he slips out, she's hurt. She's pissed. She's like, I don't want to be with you no more. And he's like, I never wanted this anyway. I just wanted you. I was doing it for you. So that's there. I don't think there's any good way with that you don't have to bring a third in. Just fix your problem. Just communicate. That's not going to help it. It may feel good, but it's not going to.
Yeah, and I don't want to knock the idea of it, right? Because you know, some people have wonderful experiences, but there are other ways to do things that may not make it as complicated. For example, if you decide to use a sex worker as opposed to someone that you know, that may have things be a little less complicated. And I said use, forgive me, I meant to say hire. Yeah, there are other things, and that can still complicate things, right? But I don't want to come off as anti-threesome. It can just, if you're looking at it to be a fix for your relationship, that ain't it.
The intention, yeah, absolutely. The intention.
It's so funny. I went on a date the other day, last week, and she said she watched that movie, the 10th Day, Love by the 10th Day, which is so interesting. But I think that's the thing. Like I said, I've seen too many times where it's played out. I don't think I've ever seen where it's been a positive experience for people, for a couple. And it's so funny because T.I. and Tiny are in the news now for that, for, I guess, inviting women in. And I mean, it's kind of, well, it's funny because when I lived in Atlanta, I lived around the corner from this mansion. They have a mansion. There was a wild party going on, and the security was checking people. They were blocking the road. I was like, well, there goes the neighborhood. Found out it was their place. But it's so funny because, you know, they've been in the news, and I don't even follow celebrity stuff, but I've been out where they've been, and when I lived out there, and I kind of like, oh, you know, I've seen a guy. And so I've seen over the years where they've had issues with their relationship, and either she was out with Floyd and Mayweather, and then, you know, supposedly he keeps stepping out, but now all this stuff has come to a head where they've been inviting women in all these years, or for quite a bit of time. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, so is that what's complicating this? They got, it was good or whatever, and then, oh, well, let me step out here or let me step out there. So and then especially the fact they're married, I think that even makes it more complicated. They're married, they have children. So I've never seen where bringing in a third party has, you know, in real life, so should I say, has brought about a positive result, especially as a fixer. Yeah. I've never seen it.
Absolutely. So I hear you both say communicating and communicate. It's compromise as well. Find that middle ground.
And understanding that some fantasies are just that.
Yeah, that's big.
And they may just live in fantasy land, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I guess, and I mean, really, that's where a couple can role play. They don't really have to invite somebody in, but that's where the role play and the creativity, you know, starts to take place. I used to do it, you know, dress with costumes and things or whatever, whips and things, whatever. And, you know, and just all that. There are couples I know who do that, you know, the woman, there's a couple couples I know where they'll go out and, you know, they act like they're meeting for the first time, something. They act like they're having a one-night stand or whatever. So I think that's where that creativity niche or whatever comes in as well, that nuance.
Yeah, that's good. And, you know, I think whatever works for your relationship, that's so be it. There's some women that, you know, they want their men to go to a strip joint, or they'll go to a strip joint with their man or husband. And that's okay because it works for them. Yeah. Some women don't feel secure enough to allow that to happen. So whatever works for your relationship.
I love you guys, man.
Y'all too.
I could talk to y'all all night.
I know.
All right.
It's just so great. But we thank you again just for your expertise, your experience, your knowledge, spitting these jewels to people. Again, it's such an important topic for men and women, relationships.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. So thank you so much
for having us. I love chatting with y'all. Y'all are very easy to talk to. Donte, I just want to sit and listen to your stories because I feel
Lord.
Like seriously entertained. I'm just, cause like I'm nosy by nature, and I'm just like, well, tell me what else happened.
Well, you're in the right field then, aren't you?
I am.
You hear everything.
Because I ask all the questions. I keep this, you know, I keep it, but I get to ask all the questions. So.
I'm with it. It's crazy. You know, it's so crazy. People say that to me all the time. They're like, and they just love to hear my stories. But it's because I grew up, you know, and I still consider myself a nerd. But I grew up, as a guy with the glasses, and I mean, I still wear glasses, but I'm trying not to wear them as much. But I wear glasses, and I was always the little scrawny guy, and I had all the girls, but people didn't know it. I was the guy with the A's and B's and whatever. And even in college, I was in student government and doing this and that. They had no idea I was having orgies and all this. Matter of fact, I lived in the honors dorm, and so we were all the leaders on the campus and this, that, and the other, and they had no idea it was a co-ed dorm. It was the only co-ed dorm on campus. And there was so much stuff going there and sneaking in people. I snuck my ex-wife in so many times because she would come in town. So it's amazing. I'm like, I really have lived a crazy life, so to speak. And I mean, I blush about it, but I don't know. I'm like, you live life on the edge, kind of have fun and just enjoy it. I guess is how I've been subconsciously. So I don't know. The older I've gotten, I'm like, like we've said before, life is too short to have bad sex and bad relationships and all that stuff. So I just believe in people living their lives and enjoying themselves. I mean, as best they can. I mean, we only have one. So it's like, make this thing bang and go out with a bang. Is what I say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why we're going to buy your book when it comes out, because we love hearing your stories. Yes.
You know what? And I'm divulging some things in that book. That's one thing about the book. It's about marriage, and it's my perspective to help couples, because I'm helping 5 couples right now, 5 people who are on the brink of divorce. One of them is actually in divorce proceedings now. And so it's so interesting or amazing to me that I have such expertise, because I'm telling them things. I'm like, yeah, you do this. Yeah, talk to your lawyer about this, whatever. And everything's just seamlessly working for them. And it's done that really for guys or people, period, who are single parents and they're trying to get custody or whatever the case may be. But this book is just, I divulged, in this first chapter that I just finished, I divulged how, long story short, the first chapter is foundation. And I talk about how people skip foundation, or they don't really build it. And I use the analogy of a house and how a foundation in the house is important. And everything's susceptible in the house if that foundation isn't built right. And I talked about how I, at the age of 22, got married. In the foundation, I helped to build a bad foundation, a shaky foundation, because I cheated 6 months after we got married. And as I always tell people, I don't excuse it. I was wrong, but I really didn't know what I was doing. I was married because she said she was pregnant. That was a lie. That was the other part of the chapter where she built her part of the foundation wrong. But for me, I cheated, and I didn't write my vows. She wrote them, and I got up there and eloquently delivered them like I wrote them. But I was like, in the book, I talk about all I cared about was the bachelor party, because my line brother, a couple of my line brothers, my frat brothers, they managed strippers back in the day. So I wanted that to be on point, and we were going to be cleaning our tuxes. That's like all I thought about. Everything else was on her. So I just want to just help people, in my capacity and with my experience. So I'm excited about it, because at first I was like, but I've hired a friend to help me, and she's really like got me on path and on course to do this thing. So I'm really just trying to help folks to whatever. Like I said, I've known 50 something people who have died in the past 2 years, but I've known about 60 couples since I divorced in 2009 who have either divorced or are going through divorces, only married like 6 or 7 years at the most. Couples I've seen, and I've mentioned that in the book, couples I've seen from the beginning, and people I encourage to get with this person or whatever, and just seeing how their marriages have dissipated or been torn apart is just amazing. So it seems like that's a trend now. And I'll just say this and I'm done. I went to play poker a couple weekends ago, and guy that invited me, I didn't know he had gotten a divorce. He knows a girl in our class who's getting a divorce. And then I told him I had posted something about marriage, and a girl in our class as well, this is a high school class, is getting a divorce. And these are couples I never would have thought that they were divorced. Crazy. So it's crazy out here. So I'm trying to do my part to help folk who are married or want to get married or repaired or divorced or whatever. So
absolutely. I'm right there by personal experience. I'm in that boat. So divorced and happily single.
Hey, welcome to the club.
Yes.
I just did a commercial spot. Our pastor is doing a series on relationships, and
I saw that.
So did you? Yeah, the guy asked me to do it. He said, "Man, I followed your journey, and I'm ready to read your book or whatever." And he was like, because he's getting remarried. This guy that asked me, He's divorced and he's getting remarried and wrote a book about mental health and where he was with depression. So just a great journey. So he said, yeah, I'll watch your journey. And so I did my little spot and I was like, yeah, you know, people just, they get divorced and they, you know, and that's one book I want to write on divorce that people can recover. A lot of people just wallow in it. I'm like, no, I mean, it was shitty for me when I did, but I did what I had to do and did it for my children. I'm like, you can live again and be happily single as I am, or happily divorced, as I said. So welcome to the club.
Yes.
As you all know, at the end of every podcast, every week we want to honor a woman that is ordinary but doing extraordinary things. So this week's episode, we want to honor Yolanda Keaton. She is a mother. She is a studio director of the Redux Society. What I really like about this particular organization is they take elements, well, they look back through American and world history and they find elements from our past that have brought society together. And they do this through art, dance, culture, fashion, games, books. So they do a lot. She's also a dance teacher. But one thing I love about her all the time, Halloween or any kind of ball, she's making costumes like Harry Potter, Captain America, Wonder Woman. I mean, this girl's talented and you guys should check her out. But I love her. She's doing a lot for the community with that organization. Dance teacher, that says a lot right there, working with people and kids. So we honor you and we thank you for what you're doing, young lady. Positive insights, and we just appreciate you.
Absolutely. We celebrate you and honor you. Thank you for being who you are and continue winning, Miss Yolanda. Yes. All right, good people. Thank you so much again, Donte and De-Andrea. We appreciate you all. Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, until next time, good people, make sure you click, subscribe, watch, and listen.
Absolutely. This has been another episode of Sweats, Heels, and Mental Health Podcast. Take care and be well, good people.